and I hit the button myself and I still wasn't ready. The Indie Council is in session. Welcome, everybody. This is a place for the leading voices from across the industry to gather to talk news, titles, and everything indie. I'm your Master of Ceremonies, Jill Grote, the Indie Informer, and joining the council today, the Strawberry host, Jenny Wyndham.
I bring
It's
strawberry cow.
yeah, it's thematic. And it's dangerous to play alone, Janet Garcia.
Moo. Hello.
See, here's the problem. When I was coming up with the titles, I wanted them to be related to our topic of the show, which you'll find out soon. But as I was writing the strawberry cow, I was like, oh, that's not a good thing to call someone.
I mean, I would
That's
happily be
Yeah.
a strawberry cow. To be very, if I was in Fields of Mistria, I would be a strawberry cow.
yeah, 100%. That's how I envision you, in fact. But I was just like, no, why don't I change that just a little bit? So yes, a little hint for what's happening later on in the show. It's going to be a fun one. We're going to have lots to talk about. But let's start out with indie news and somewhat sad, but actually like good news. I Am Your Beast was delayed. It was supposed to come out when everybody is watching this, literally today. But it's been delayed to September 10th. Essentially, it was a really last minute delay. It was a really interesting thing when this sort of situation comes up because I got an email, like a frantic email from a PR partner being like, hey, I know that the deadline was here and you're ready to go and I'm so sorry, but please don't do anything. I would hold all your coverage. It was like, it's in writing, but that was the tone, obviously. And this was just days before. So it is an unusual timeline to see this kind of information come up, but we have gotten more information from both the official post and also Xalavier on his Twitter has done a TikTok kind of explaining the situation with all of the sort of scrutiny, popularity that the game has gotten since its Steam demo. They wanted to make sure the game was going to be the best version possible. And the developers wanted to take more time to just completely polish everything and make sure it was 100% because, as Xalavier said, this may turn out to be Strange Scaffold's biggest hit, which is odd considering that their last biggest hit is being turned into a movie. So, like, it seems that Strange Scaffold is doing really, really well, and I'm really glad to hear that. And this is not due to any underlying scary sort of information. This has a lot to do, as he said, it has a lot to do with making sure that he builds a company, that Strange Scaffold is a place where developers can feel like they're building the thing they want to build while not being pressured or crunched. And so having to choose between hitting the deadline and making sure that his team was mentally okay, it seems that Strange Scaffold came together and was like, mental health is more important. Let's push it back by just a month. Which is really cool, I think. Like, that is something that Strange Scaffold has been really outspoken about how they want to create a space where it is people focused and it's about devs coming together to do passion but not being exploited for that passion, which is an odd thing. Unfortunately, it is a fish out of water in this particular industry. But so how did y'all feel about this when you saw it? How did you get this news?
Also via email with the
Yeah.
subject line urgent in all
Urgent.
caps. Yeah, this is it's surprising in some ways because it is so close to the release date that we got the information, and then like seemingly like a day before, a day before today for recording, so 2 days for people who are day one listeners of this episode. It's like it got posted publicly as well. And I think on one hand, it's a little bit like, whoa, like that's kind of unexpected because it was so close to the release date. On the other hand, I think we've seen delays like this before, in, not just the indie space, but various studio sizes. And usually these delays are an indicator of there was I wouldn't say small thing, but it's like some type of bug fix or stability thing or kind of just like a little bit of tweaking that the vibe I always get from studios that do this kind of last second delay is we could roll the dice and kind of just like put it out there. And, because a lot of performance issues are like a percentage thing, right? Like not every player will encounter it, but maybe you might. And it's like, oh, we could like really try to crunch these last couple days and still not make it. Or we could give ourselves a decent gap where we know we're going to reach this. I always think about how tough it must be to really, how tough it is to turn something in, right? It's like, okay, here it is. Like I could tweak it more and more, but I'm just going to hand it over. And I think that hits so much harder when it's something that is technological, like a video game, where there can be and will always be some degree of bugs and issues that you might be fine tuning and kind of trying to strike that balance between what's an acceptable and normal amount of stuff we can patch as we go and what would be maybe a bad product that could like, hurt the studio name, upset players, things like that. So I feel like this being that September 10th from its initial August 15th or 14th or whenever it was, it's just like a big enough gap that it felt it the vibe I get is like this is a comfortable amount of time for them to get what's probably not that much work left to be done, but just enough work that fitting it into 2 days is going to be the kind of, I think we've all been in those situations where you like kind of die for a deadline. And then by the time you put it out, it's like, this isn't even what I really wanted it to be even now. And I kind of just feel like I got screwed over both ways. Like I kind of crunched for almost a mediocrity. Not to say that this would have been like a mediocre project, but like I put a lot of work and I didn't get the full reward. So it seems like this was their call to be able to do what they want to do without like unnecessarily dying for it. And that the last few days just wasn't quite enough time to really feel confident in whatever they wanted to get done. So, yeah, I think it makes sense. And it's not that big of a difference. And like y'all have alluded to, there's a lot of games coming out right now, especially. So, hopefully it still gets the attention it was going to get, regardless of the date shift.
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting thing that you noted, that there are so many indie games that pop up and developers who are talking about their launch that say, like, I worked so hard getting to the launch, kind of envisioning that, once I hit the button, like, that's the end. I wash my hands and walk away, but then realizing how much more work goes into as soon as you hit that button, then people are coming in and things mess up because there's this flood of people coming in and playing, and things you didn't ever expect to happen have suddenly happened. You're getting floods of feedback from the public. So your, post launch can be much busier than even the lead up to launch because you're suddenly like, oh, this is all very high pressure. All eyes are on us. Want to get all of this done. So I believe one of the announcements for this that I read kind of talked about that, spoke about how all of this information or all of this was going to get done, and then the devs would be able to come into that launch week fresh and rejuvenated and ready to take those pressures on as well, which is nice. It's nice to see that sustainability, huge part of Strange Scaffold, huge part of their kind of development philosophy, so that they are sticking to it, even at the risk of pushing back dates is cool to see. I also would like to throw out a theory as to what happened. Picture this in your mind: San Francisco, August 1st. The day is warm and sunny, but then as the night starts to close in on us, something terrible happens. The last San Francisco Denny's closes its doors forever. Bum, bum, bum. It's very dramatic, everyone. Don't worry about it. Anybody who knows Xalavier knows that there is some history there, and upon him learning that the Denny closed, I can't overstate his reaction. So the fact that just mere weeks later, the big project he's a part of gets delayed.
Mhm.
And I'm throwing the truth perhaps out there. We can all speculate as to what might have been going on behind the scenes.
But when it rains, it pours, you know?
Yeah.
So I think this is just another example of that.
Jenny, how are you feeling about this news?
I think really just mirroring all the things that you've all said, so I don't want to retread that too much. I think one thing that is notable is that it's really cool to see that they have the freedom to make these choices. I know, just from the developer side, sometimes the more stakeholders and partners you have in these launch conversations, the harder it can be to be that flexible. And so I think the systems that they've set up for themselves is really cool to see that they're able to make those calls even at the 11th hour and say, you know what, this isn't good for our team. We're going to change the plan. And I think that's really awesome because that is not something a lot of studios can do, because of just the legal stuff that they're tied to. So that's just really happy to see them utilizing that and sticking with their studio values.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
But there's a lot going on August 15th, so we don't have to worry too much about missing out on having anything to do that day, including Wholesome Games Steam Celebration is starting August 15th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and it promises world premiere game announcements, deep discounts, free demos, and new game releases, which leads into the topic of our show, which is Fields of Mistria and August's hottest releases. Uh, the start of the Wholesome Fest also marks a lot of indie releases. Most of these are sort of wholesome or wholesome adjacent. One of them, like some of these are not actually related, but some of the ones that caught my eye, and there are definitely more than this, but they include Odada, Just Grow Things, Arco, The Crimson Diamond, Magical Delicacy, Sticky Business DLC, uh, Minami Lane Switch release, Gordlets, Love Ghosty, and Mirth Melody. Jenny, did any of those uh, hit you particularly hard?
Many of those. Where do I start? I think Orada is one that's really intriguing to me. I really loved the time that I've gotten to spend with the game and earlier access builds so far. And so very excited to see more of these like sandboxy toy games come out because I think we've talked about before. I struggle with a lot of those type of games. I think Janet's mentioned like the really open sandboxy toy games can be really hit or miss for me, but I feel like Orada has something a bit more special that kind of entrances me more than most of these types of games. From a personal standpoint, as part of the like Wholesome Games has supported Minami Lane, and so there's the disclosure there. But I'm just excited to see Minami Lane come on Switch. And Gordlets is one I've been really looking forward to for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been really cool to see that developer, who's I think primarily a solo developer, go from posting on TikTok, posting on Twitter, and having just this really very charming but rudimentary game to now having like Twitch extensions, to including like the idle sort of version of the game that's inspired by the Rusty's, what was it, the Rusty Farm Idle Simulator?
Rusty's Retirement.
Rusty's
Yeah,
Retirement.
Rusty's Retirement. And so seeing that game evolve and how they've been so open about that evolution of the game on social media, I think has been really cool. And so I'm just also personally quite excited about that one.
Yeah,
But
you've been
they all
playing
are
that a
good.
lot, have you?
I have
I believe so.
hopped in probably only 30 minutes recently, but I did play a lot of their earlier demo. So I'm very excited to play more. But admittedly, Fields of Mistria has been taking up quite a bit of time
Yeah,
in my life.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm also in that boat. Gordlets, I've not spent a lot of time with recently. Past iterations, I'm like, I can see where this is going. I'm very excited to check this out. It is going to be a lot of fun. I also want to shout out particularly Love Ghosty, which is out right now, and it's so it's such a like guilty pleasure game, you know. You're basically like you've died. Congratulations. And apparently as a ghost, your job is from the afterlife to like matchmake people from in the house that you haunt. It's like the most absurd, lovely concept, and you're just like it's really wholesome in its sort of eagerness and earnestness that it's just like, "Oh, I feel good." Everyone just wants to come together and you're like giving gifts on behalf of others. If you like pretending like it's from one person, but you've actually just put it in their room and they're going you watch them as they go on dates and whether or not the date goes well. And it's just a lot of like it's not a lot of high pressure,
Mhm.
but I'm still, like, crossing my fingers every time. I'm like, "Oh, man, I really want this penguin and this giraffe to hit it off," you know? Like,
Yeah.
this is the height of everything I want in life right now. So go check out Love Ghosty. I also wanna shout out Just Crow Things. It is very,
Mhm.
Little Kitty Big City-esque, but you're a crow, and it's a little more mischievous because like, a lot of what you do as the crow is, like, poop on things, you know?
Mhm.
So, like
It's by the same folks who made, oh, what is that rain cloud game? It's like just rain
Rain on
Oh
on
Your
my
Parade.
rain on
gosh.
your parade. Yeah. I think
Yes.
it's by the
I loved
same
Rain on Your
team.
Parade.
Yeah. So it's that kind of mischief, which is really wonderful. Just kind of like not totally Schadenfreude, is that what it says? But it's like the like um you're kind of this underdoggy character and you're maybe causing a bit of mischief for like the humans around you. And I think that's always really fun.
Mhm. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun time. I
Mhm.
think also a couple of these that I have had hands-on time with recently, the Crimson Diamond. It sort of looks like Varney Lake. It sort of plays like Crypt Master, sort of, in the fact that it's sort of a typing game of that nature, or really it's a text-based adventure where you're typing out like, "Hey, look at this thing," and that's what you're doing, and it's a big murder mystery and trying to figure out exactly what has happened, and everyone comes together in the creepy lodge for reasons. Um, I haven't been able to play a ton of it, but that is also out today. I really want people to go check that out. I think Arco, I need to put so much more time into. I
I
very
need to start
rarely
that one.
play a yeah, I'm a couple hours into this game, and I very rarely play for that length of time and don't have my mind settled one way or the other because Arco is a fantastic like narrative. I love how it's kind of like subtle biting humor. I love the vengeance story we're getting set up on. I love all the characters and how everyone reacts to each other. I love that you can just wander in and find something you're like, "Oh, that's not what I was expecting." Or like little things like walking up and being like, "I look at this rock and behind under the rock is a worm." And you're like, "Why do I need a worm?" And then later you find a lake that's like you can fish with the worm now. Oh, that's cool. Um and then the fish later on, you can use it in battle as, like, a healing thing or, "Oh,
I
I
was not
didn't know that."
expecting that.
Yeah, it's like, "Oh, okay, so you heal a little bit." Or, like, one of my favorite things that just made me laugh ridiculously was, like, I picked up a stick, and the description of the stick is like, "I don't know, maybe it's useless." And I was just like, "Perfect, I'll equip it for no apparent reason." And then when I was in a battle, I could use it to throw at someone, and I was like, "That's perfect." There's no reason for me to have picked up the stick, there's no reason for me to equip the stick, I only have 2 equipable, like, slots, so the fact that I used one up for this thing that said, like, "This may in fact be absolutely useless," and then it actually turned out to have some use in the combat, um, is 100 so percent up my alley. Like, I love, love, love this. It's got a really interesting setting, it's kind of like fantasy-esque Mesoamerica, which is not a setting you see a lot of, so I'm really happy to see that representation. Everything in the game is beautiful, it's these tiny little granular pixels, it allows for a lot of really cool epic vista shots, and you play a lot of the game kind of zoomed out beyond what you normally would for a game, so you get a lot of the landscape. I think for me, the sort of thing I can't quite wrap my mind around is the combat. It is such an interesting, unique system of partly turn-based and partly real time in that you make decisions about what you're gonna do, And as soon as you commit to that action, everyone else does their actions around you. So while you're deciding what to do, you can look over at an enemy and be like, okay, that enemy is going to move here by the next turn. So if I try to move where right now it's clear, there's going to be an enemy. So I want to avoid that. Um, there are some really interesting options. There was one big giant beetle that I fought early on where it kind of jumps into the air. So, like, one of its turns is just jumping, one of its turns is hovering in the air, and one of its turns is plopping down on its tummy and crushing you. Um, so, if I got the timing correct, I could run towards a glob of goo that was explosive, have it target me, either run away or shield by the time it came down, and then the explosion would flip it over on its back and it would like have its little legs wiggling. It could move anywhere and I would be destroying it. But if I got the timing correct, which I am always sort of messing up because I'm like, oh man, I forgot there's like it's a turn for him to target, it's a turn for him to be in the air, and it's a turn for him to come down. So I was like one step ahead or one step behind. And I really, really enjoy the sort of puzzleistic nature of this combat, but whether or not it is too cumbersome to be enjoyable remains to be seen. So maybe I will become an absolute master of this fighting technique and come back next week and be like, y'all, I was so wrong. This is a lot of fun. Just give it, 5 hours or whatever.
Jeez.
And you'll become a master. Um, or not, but I mean, I love so much of this game already. I want to love this combat and I'm not sure that I do. So I'm gonna try to play more of this, but there are other things that
Mhm.
are pressing for my time, including shout out, I know I've talked about this a lot, Magical Delicacy is coming out on Switch today as people are watching this. It's a perfect Switch game. I did finish it. My review is up. You can go check that out. Spoilers, I gave it a high score. It's so unique and cozy, and I want to be in that world. The moment I finished it and rolled credits, I was sad. It's one of those games where I kind of wanted it to continue forever. And I think for a lot of people, they'll finish the main game and then have more things to do, like side quests and side orders and stuff. But because I was so into it, I finished all the side orders. Like everybody who came up to me asking for things, I'm like, put everything on hold. You need a sandwich. I'm going to get you a sandwich. We're going to figure out how the sandwich is put together. Um, Figuring out how to make the things that people ask for is a fun puzzle in and of itself. Trying to figure out, like, okay, how do I make a tea that is both made with flowers but is also sour? Like, what combination of things do I have to do? And just like collecting different ingredients and being like, oh, I have this special thing that I found here. That's probably going to make it work. Um, I think there are some notes that I have for the game. It's mainly it the ending was abrupt for me because I had done so much side quest and I had wrapped everything else up. At the end quest was just like, and we did it. And that was kind of the game asks you and sort of encourages you to continue playing on and it expects you to have more to do, but I didn't have anything more to do. I had found everything. Uh, Discovering places in this game is so much fun because it is a platformer as well as a cooking sim, which is unusual. But the platforming was fun. Discovering different and new abilities that open up new areas is fun. Like, I know I was texting the chat with everyone here, being like, to Jenny specifically because it's her like brand of cozy, I think. Being like, Jenny, I just got the second ability and it's amazing and you'll love it, but I'm not going to spoil anything. Like, I've been so annoying about this game, but please go check it out because I've been having that much fun with it. And yeah, so I think that's where I'm going to stop praising the game, other August 15 games. Janet, do you want to jump in or do you want to jump in to the topic of the show?
I think we get into the topic of the show.
Okay. So, y'all, let's talk about Fields of Mistria. Everyone that I know who has played this game even a little bit is just completely obsessed with it. Like, I pretend I have my Steam Deck here because I meant to grab it and I didn't. So, Jenny,
I'm
let's
like,
start
I'm
with
looking
you.
at it like, is anything embargoed on here? I'm like, why did I
Yeah,
share this
make sure it's
screen?
Yeah.
don't.
It's like ready to go. Like, I just don't even exit the game on my Steam Deck. I just have it constantly in game, so I can just turn
I
on
close it because I feel like it's good to close it. You know, like it's good
It's
for the
probably good.
machine.
It's good for the
It
game.
doesn't matter. I don't
I
think.
have noticed once you hit at least on my machine, which is like the original Steam Deck, I think once you hit about like 3 or 4 hours of play without closing the game, it does start to lag pretty significantly when there are multiple characters.
That's why I had that lag. Okay,
So,
hold on. That might be
whenever
it.
that happens, pro tip, just save, exit the game, and come back in. The lag will be gone. Yeah, I have a lot of hours in this game to know
How
that.
many hours do you have there, Jenny?
Just over 20 already, which is a lot for
Okay.
me, which because normally, like, I don't know, I don't usually play 20 hours games just in general.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
and I feel sort of because I got the key, ahead of the embargo lift, and I like was traveling and I couldn't play it, which was such a bummer. And so I started playing it on launch day, and I was just like,
Same.
oh my gosh, like, where has this game been all my life? I don't even know where to start because it's just so good. I do have notes where I'm like, I would love to see some quality of life improvements, and we know content is coming. But I mean, for an early access, the depth of content we have with Fields of Mistria, the writing, the just, even though I said there are quality of life things I would improve, the stuff that's there, awesome. Like, again, it's a testament that I've already played 20 hours in
Yeah.
a week, I think.
Yeah.
Just under.
Something like that. I'm actually really surprised because I just tripped over 20 hours.
Mhm.
And I was like, Jenny is going to like double that. So I'm feeling
I
like
thought so
neck
too,
and
but
neck.
like I
No.
didn't want to like seem like I was shading you. For
No,
like,
honestly, 20 hours for me is a lot because I typically don't like, even Stardew Valley. I will play because I fall asleep super easily, and I usually only play games right before bed. And so, like, I will typically max out about an hour before I fall asleep. And so for me, 20 hours is like pretty dang good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
no.
before we get too
Yeah.
far into what we thought about Fields of Mistria, let me just do a quick elevator pitch as to
Mhm.
what this game is. Essentially, it is a combination of Stardew Valley, a combination of Animal Crossing, and thrown in just for fun a little bit of like 90s anime.
Mhm.
And you've got it.
Yeah. I would also add in for folks who are like fans of Harvest Moon, specifically
Mhm.
Harvest Moon N64 and Harvest Moon Friends of Mineral Town. Those are like also very close homages. I think homages. Homage. I don't know.
Homage.
Homage.
You got it. You got to sound a little French.
Right.
Like, it's a really pretentious freaking French word.
But yeah, they are, I think, more closely related to that than Stardew Valley, which is a
Yes.
huge plus in my opinion.
I wasn't actually expecting that when I went in. I was really like, okay, this is Stardew. I get sort of the concept. And then as I was getting more and more into it, I'm like, oh, it's a lot more Animal Crossing than I thought it was. It's a lot more 90s anime than I thought it was. Like, some of the things are just so extra. Like, I streamed it the first day, I think, that it came out for early access. And that, like, one within like the first 15 minutes, one of the characters has already done like dramatic hair toss, and you already had the ho 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 laugh. I was like, oh, come on now, I'm ready for this. I was born for this. Janet, how many hours have you thrown into this? And your intro also notes that you're not playing this alone. So talk about multiplayer a little bit too.
Yeah. Well, so multiplayer in the sense that I'm playing and Isaiah's playing. There's no multiplayer
Yeah.
currently in it, though I really hope that they add that in there. Or at least some, this is kind of getting ahead of like our wish list for the future. Some element of multiplayer, even if it's not like come to my town, like let me mail you a pile of rocks I found. Just something to feel like you're connected with the
Yes,
community.
that would be so
But
great.
I am 14.3 hours in. I feel like it's funny because the progress I've made in that time isn't as much as I think some people. Like, it took me a while to find, like, where is the like, I didn't find the beach for a long time so I didn't get
Yeah.
the fishing rod for, like, an obscene amount of time. So little things like that, I messed up. It took me a while to realize that I could use the sword to, like, weed, like Isaiah had to tell me, because I'm just didn't like, I didn't play Stardew very much. Like, I have tried to play Stardew, like, 3 different times, and I start and I do a couple days, and then I'm like, "Cool, I like fishing in this game." But all right, like, and I just kind of bounce off of it. So I kind of went into this not really knowing what to expect. And I'm a huge Animal Crossing fan, but only at New Horizons. Like, I haven't played the older ones. So it's kind of, even though this game is very up my alley, when you actually look, I don't have like as strong of a history with the genre. So I really didn't know what I would, necessarily get out of it, or where it would take me. But I've been loving this game. It's just got such a, it's I think the thing that is most appealing about this game, and it's funny because, like, when New Horizons came out, which I know it's not an indie game, but it is an apt comparison point. It's like I fell in love with it. I ate it up. It was incredible. And there's definitely rumblings of some people that are like, I mean, I like it, but like, I don't like all these things. And I'm kind of like, can't relate, just having a good time. And now that I'm playing this, I'm like, New Horizons was trash. Like, kind of coming back around in a sense, because obviously it's a different game that does different things in different ways, and it's kind of going for more of a, like, you play New Horizons and it's very much like a daily grind, and the grind is almost identical every single day, and you might have individual projects in that kind of game. Like, the thing that I think a lot of people loved about New Horizons was getting to make your little town look how you want, or like getting the right villagers or things like that. And you very much are like God, and you're kind of like, why am I not more like God? And that was like kind of the chase of that game, and it was very fun. Put stupid hours into that game, loved every minute of it. I think what's so exciting to me about Fields of Mistria is that there's an aspect of daily grind, in the sense that, like, there's things that you might want to get done. Like, for me, I'm like, I love animals. I want to build my farm as quickly as I can. Okay, what do I need? I need money. Okay, let me like try to do stuff to get money. And you kind of end up having these different pursuits. But I think what's so appealing is that the day is never long enough. And I feel like in a game like, New Horizons, it's like, okay, you do a couple things. It's like, cool, I did my dailies. And you kind of just like, you can do more stuff like decorate if you want to, but whatever. Here it's worth noting, there is like a day system. It's not real time. It's like just general progression. Then you get tired at like 2 a.m. You got to go to bed by 2 a.m. or you like knock out, that kind of thing. And I always want more time. I always want more of the day, because there's so much cool stuff to do and so much stuff I want to do. So I think this game does a really good job at having a kind of clear progression system, in having like these little quests, and they very clearly separate like story quests from like optional sort of tasks you can do, and they're not that different in what you're doing. Usually you are like gathering either a number of materials or gathering a specific material for a specific person. They're like, oh, I ran out of wood, can I get some wood? Or I could use a fence. Like, you give them a fence, whatever. But it's so clear what you're doing. And then you also might have things that you want to do, where, like, again, for me, I'm like, I want to get animals. How do I make my animal farm? Not to be confused with the dystopian novel Animal Farm, but like, I want to make a literal animal farm. So there's just so much, and like every day is a good day. And I'm like so excited to get up and do my little tasks and hang out. And yeah, it's just so appealing. Like, there's so many directions to take it in. And of course, we can obviously get into the gameplay things that make this a good feeling, and where you're not really bumped. There's so much to do, but there's so little friction, but it's still interesting. I think that's really what's been impressive about my time with it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think the combination of all of that is what is making it so hard, because this is it's been a while since I've had a game that I'm like, I could just play this on my break real fast. I could, like, as soon as I'm done with work, I'm like, let me just jump on my Steam Deck and play this. And I look up and it's like 1:30 in the morning already. I'm like, dang it, and I'm like, how fast can I get everything else done so that I can go check on whether or not, like, my cow is giving milk, or like whether or not the, I don't know, wheat is growing or whatever. Um, let's talk a little bit about the gameplay, because we've I I think it's difficult to talk about this game without immediately liking it to uh any of the number of games we've already talked about. But there are so many game-changing kind of things that are just so small for the most part that like, it doesn't seem like it should make that much of a difference, and some of them are, like, really, "Why hasn't this been in games the whole time?" And I think the number one thing for me is jumping is a dedicated button in this game, and it does allow for so much. Not only, like, you can jump over fences to get to your, like, animals quicker or, like, jump over cliffs so you don't have to walk all the way down. You can jump into rivers and swim and then look for sunken treasure. You can jump into, um like, you can jump onto like, it's wild how much jumping just makes things better and easier, and that I completely forget that I'm allowed to do this. So, I it took me so long to figure out that I could get to certain places because I could jump in the water. Like, it is a
Mm.
part of the exploration that it encourages you to jump in and take a swim in the rivers that are plentiful in the fields of Mistria land outside of your farm. So it's like, oh, there's a certain element of like discovery here that's really cool that is just not a part of some of these other games because it's just not something you could do. Like, I know there were things later on where like New Horizons added being able to jump in the ocean and go swimming around and stuff. But it was sort of just like because people had been asking and it didn't seem like that integrated into the gameplay, just
When
sort
it
of a like,
was
here's a thing you can do.
And it was clunky, right? Like with Animal
Yeah.
Crossing, you had to have your snorkel, you had to like have it in your inventory, you had to be ready for it. Whereas like in this, at any point in time, you can jump off not jump off a cliff, but like you can jump off of
Go jump off a
ledges,
cliff.
you can go swimming.
Finally.
The power fantasy in games finally dreamed and achieved. But yeah, it's just like I think Janet said, everything is so frictionless. I think that's what's really beautiful about this game. Same with like planting, like you can plant your seeds, and if you don't like where you planted them, which happens to me all the time, you can actually use, I think, the shovel to pick up seeds. You can use your pickaxe to move
Mm.
around furniture and change like your
Mhm.
plot. They have terraforming, kind of, where it's like you're terraforming your field shape. So it's like the ease in which you can do things that in other similar type of games you had to do a lot to earn it, and by the time you earned it you were kind of maybe done with the game, I think
Mhm.
is really cool. Like they just kind of give you so much right from the jump to play with.
Yeah. Another one of those that is so small, but I'm like, this is so smart and I really appreciate it, is being able to have the thing that you're holding. Say, like, I have gone to my tomatoes, I've picked a tomato, I have it in my hands, and I walk up to the chest. Instead of having to like go into the chest menu, grab the tomato, put it in, I can just hit the shoulder button and it automatically puts whatever I am holding into that chest. And I'm like,
Mhm.
thank you so much. It's just a one button and I can walk away.
And it
Like,
doesn't auto gift things to people if you're holding them, which has been my
yes.
kryptonite in these games. But you have to, for so many inputs, you have to hold down, I forget one of the bumpers to
Mhm.
essentially confirm that you are wanting to take on that action
Yeah.
specifically with items. Oh my God. That's so
Game changer.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't accidentally eat the thing I've spent a million hours cooking so that I could give it
Yeah.
Hmm.
to the person I'm trying to romance. I'm like, dang it.
Yep.
I guess I'll give you this plant that I found over here.
Hmm.
Like, um, I think another one of these really, really small but really important things that I'm seeing more of in all kinds of games and not just this one. If you have resources in a chest somewhere in your possession, no matter where you go, wherever the workstation is, your things will be there. You do not have to go to your chest, pick up all of your wood, and then go to the workstation in order to build a chair or whatever. Like, no matter what, you can just, because especially since in this game, especially initially, your bag, your inventory space is so limited that you're frequently running out of space. So
Yeah.
having to like not worry about that for little things like, hey, I just want to build this thing really fast, Perfect.
Mhm.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I think on
Uh,
that note too, being able to go beyond the 99 items, like you can have like 100 and something of an
Mhm.
item and it doesn't create a new stack of items
mhm,
is also very convenient. Like it really does feel like, and we'll get to our quality of life stuff that we might want to see added to this, but it really does feel like they played a lot of this style of game and said like, what if we took out all the stuff that was annoying? And then they
Mhm.
just like did that. Or it's like, what if we only did stuff that was in service of the fun? Like I think when you, and that's I think the key to making a sim of any nature, it's about like leaning into what is fun, what's enjoyable. I think for people who don't
Mhm.
play these games, there is that like, well, you might not play this game because you might not like the roteness of like hitting a tree for wood. Like I really like that stuff. I think people that like these games enjoy the chores and the tasks, but you enjoy doing it. You don't enjoy necessarily if there's a lot of little annoyances to get you to that part. And I think something like having the clothes just be in a menu. Like, sure, it's not like the lore of, well, I look in a mirror and that's kind of how I get dressed, or I open a closet. It's like, yeah, that is immersive, but like, am I really, is it fun though?
Mhm.
Why are we really doing it? And I think too often, like, for the sake of immersion, they have a system in place, but it's not actually leaning towards what people enjoy engaging with. Like when you like crafting, the thing you like about it is collecting and making a thing. Like you don't enjoy lugging things from place to place. So it's like, okay, cool, that's removed. And it really feels like
Mhm.
that was the design ethos that went into so many of the decisions that run through this game.
Yeah, I
yeah.
think a really great example playing off of that is the watering can. The fact that you do not have to fill your watering can at a well or at a lake or body of water is amazing. And it is one of those things where I didn't realize how not annoyed, but how much just like weird mental energy it took for me to be like, oh, I got to remember to fill this thing before I go do my morning chores. And so
Mhm.
I think exactly it. It's like they removed the more annoying sort of nonsensical things that stood in the way of the fun of living out the fantasy versus like I don't really want to farm. I want to just like fantasy farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Jenny, 100%. My first day on the farm with crops, I went to the cosmetic only well to fill up my watering can because I'm so trained to do that. And I was like,
Mhm.
there's nothing, it's not, it's a- and I was like, I guess I'll just wait to see how long my watering can lasts. And then it never stopped. And I was blown away.
Dream come true. I will
Yeah.
say it's not as I think if we want to talk more mechanics we can, but I would love to talk about why I think this game is like truly like what the magic for me in this game is, if that's okay, unless you want to do
Yeah.
more
Let's
mechanic
talk
stuff.
about the magic, Jenny. I want to hear it.
Okay. I mean, there's the characters. So I think what's really interesting about farming sims in particular is you have these like two camps that people usually sit in. You have people who are the min maxers, like the people who go into Stardew and they're like, they have
These
spreadsheets.
are
They
the
do
crops to get day
yeah,
one.
this is
Like,
how you're gonna like max out your gold. They have like basically the factory farms of duplicators, going on. And then you have people who are like super deep into the lore of the village and like what's going on with Lewis and his underpants and like, all of that stuff.
Whoa.
everyone
Yeah.
knows what's going on with Lewis and his
Yeah,
underpants.
exactly. And so what I think is really cool is that with so many farming sims that have released since Stardew Valley, I think they capture maybe a lot of the aesthetic and even a lot of the mechanics and even get a lot of the polish, but I have yet to see a game get the characters and acknowledge that the point that many of these people go to these games for is this community that you get to embed into and love and live with. And what I appreciate most is that these developers and the studio gets it. Like I go into this village because I want to get to know the community. I want to know all the hot goss. I want to date people. And so everyone from day one is like interesting. And I think what's really cool is you aren't living in a bubble in this where they're all focused on you. They have interests with one another. There's like Friday nights at the inn where there's like a D&D
Yes.
group hanging out. And I go
So
to Friday
good.
nights at the inn because I'm like, I want to hear what's happening in their campaign. And it has nothing to do with me. And I
Mhm.
think that idea that I don't have this like farmer bubble that they're all like, I mean, you're the main character. You're going to be focused on, but there's life outside of you and you can see it and they remember things and they bring up stuff. that is like the true magic of this game. It is beautiful and it makes me excited to wake up because I'm excited to hear like, what are they going to say about the beetle that I just put in the museum? Or what are they going to say? Because like me and Hayden, we like went and had a tea party together. Like, did anyone else notice, or is anyone else going to talk about it? Amazing. So I think that for me is like that special sauce for this game for sure.
Right. You talk about the like incentives that they are putting in to have people enjoy that social aspect of the game as well.
Mhm.
Like they have at least 2 different weekly things, events that are happening in the game just for you to socialize with these people so that you can feel close to them. The Friday night D&D is always called, or Friday night gatherings at the inn, um, is always called out when you start your morning. So it's
Yeah.
not even just a like, oh, I found out that was happening through a letter and I kind of forgot. Like literally every Friday, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do my thing, but I gotta remember to get to the inn after 5.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I missed one week because I was like in the mines and I'd sort of forgot to watch the time. And I was
It's
so
like
upset.
devastating.
I was so upset because the kids, like, there are usually a couple of fractions. You've got the D&D group, which, by the way, is such a fun story microcosm that didn't have to
It's
be
so
as fun as
cute.
it is,
It's
of like
amazing.
the person who wasn't interested at all and suddenly now they're the DM and going through their situations, and it's so good. And then you've got the like card table, and which turns into the group meeting for like artists and stuff like that, and just having the like completely clueless person completely winning every time and not knowing why. And then you have like the group of people who are there just to drink, and so they've got their own little
Yeah.
thing. And
Mhm.
you've got upstairs are the kids kind of watching all the adults around, like as kids kind of would. And like I think the third week in, like the first couple of weeks, these kids, when you talk to them, are planning a kind of heist.
Mhm.
And the third weekend they were going to enact it. I was so excited because I was part of the plan. Um, but then I got stuck up in the mines, and as soon as I went to bed and realized, oh my god, I missed it. I missed the heist. What's going to happen because I wasn't there? Like those are the sort of reactions this game makes me have because I care about what's going on with these characters. The other weekly event that happens is once you fix, like, again, really good system here for pushing you to get things done. One of them being very early on, they want you to fix the road to the eastern part of the world so that the Saturday market can continue to happen. So every Saturday there's a market and you want to show up because it's got unique items and things you can check out, but also everyone in the town shows up so you can just really quickly talk to everyone. And again, all the little things that are so good, that are just so useful. It shows you who you've talked to and who you
Yeah.
have given a gift to. So you don't have to like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, I forgot I'd already given you a gift. Okay, never mind. Um, so you can just get through everybody and increase their hearts with you and start romancing people more that way. And
How do I give gifts to people? Like I have no idea.
Right
I was
trigger.
like
you
for 14
you
You
hours.
you
yeah,
hold
right
right trigger
trigger.
down with an item in your hand.
Oh, yeah, I had no idea. I was like, what's the name of the woman that's on the cover of the game? I was like, you like tulips,
Celine.
right? I was like, okay, I'm gonna give her some tulips because I like have these grown. Like they're not gonna sell for anything. Like we might as well. And I was like, how do I do it? I'm like, I don't know. And that's it. Then 14 hours later, I was like, and because for me, like with these kinds of games, like I'm not like above Googling in any game, but I find it more fun to like have the realism of like just like let me ask somebody or hear somebody do something like organically, even if it's
Mhm.
like organically on the internet. But yeah, I'm like, I've been wondering how to do that. I'm like, how do I like build any of this community? And it's funny that I think Jenny, you're like really good in pointing out how good like the writing and like the lore is here, because everyone does, they do feel like they're tropes, but they feel real within the tropes. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, and they also don't like lean too heavily into it. It's not like, oh, this is the guy who's like, okay, this is the daddy character, he's gonna be all like zesty the whole time. He's like a regular guy who just happens to like have his chest hair exposed. It's like, okay, cool, like he's just like, like everyone fits their little archetype, but they have dimensions outside of just that archetype where it's
Mhm.
like, oh, you know, March is like a jerk, but he also like showed up for the cooking class and he's really embarrassed because he didn't know anyone would know. He's gonna like, you know, and I think too, like the way they do story with tutorial, I think is really nice. Like I'm someone who doesn't really care as much about like the people. And I'm like, I'm just here to build my empire. Like, it's grind time, you know? Like, I miss so many people's birthdays, dude. I miss, like, everyone's birthday for, like, weeks because I'm like, like, I'm really busy. I'm working. They're like, oh, come through. But the night at the inn is also something that I never miss because it's like, and I remember the first day, they're like, oh, like, come through. Like, where I came to invite you personally. And I remember looking at the clock, like, damn, like it's late as hell. Like, is anyone still at that inn? But like, you know, I showed up at like 8 or 10 at night. It's like, oh, people are still that cool. I can still get like the little story stuff. And I think what's cool is that, well, like I don't necessarily get hyper invested like by nature in individual characters or like the town, but I think because again, it has that progression structure within enjoying the lore that like, okay, now it makes sense for me. Like I'm not someone who like I'm not going to talk to everybody in town every day. I'm like, that's exhausting. There's like 80 of you. Like, to be honest, I have a hard time seeing like what do you look like when you're pixelated? Oh, I don't know. Like I just don't really pursue that. But like the inn is such a good time where it's like, cool, I can hit up these groups, I can see what's going on. I'm kind of, and then they have that through line and that really like does hook you where it's like, oh, every week it's like a little different. It's like, oh, well, now like this person's brought the alcohol this time, or this person, oh, they spilled the wine. Like, it's just like, it's so fun. And it's like, I think it gives you rails for that fantasy. Because I do like story in games, but I think the thing that has never drawn me to story in these types of games is how self-driven it is, where it's like, oh, I can talk to them, and then like, oh, okay, I guess, and like, oh, okay, I guess if I say enough things that they agree with, they'll be like, you know, a little heart animation will appear. Like that never really gave me the juice or the sauce, but the structure of having like there's these activities that are bespoke that you can come and observe and partake in is really, really cool because like that's the part of story that I really enjoy and get. This is like farming Life is Strange energy a little bit, and I really like that aspect of it. And then they have, you know, we haven't even gotten to the dragon statue. That's the only
Oh
one.
my gosh,
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, we've got things to
me
talk
and that
about.
dragon are locked in. I won't talk to anyone for fucking days. Every day I'm at that statue. Like,
Yeah. This ties in a lot to overall, I want to introduce this topic as sort of something we've been dancing around, and it is the carrots. It is the engagement. Every part of this game, social, min-maxy, like anything that's going on, is you have an incentive to do that. Part of the incentive, even just for like the social things going to the inn has an open pot of soup that you can go
Yeah.
to every day and replenish some of your energy. How perfect is that? And you're just going to run into people. But one of the biggest like pushers of the story and kind of what's going on in this town is renown. You are chasing numbers go up. You get quests when you complete quests, when you put objects into the museum, when you are selling things, you are increasing your renown. And the idea behind that is the town of, it's not the town of Mistria, is it?
It is.
It is.
Yeah,
Okay.
right?
I think
The
it's
town of
Mistria is the
Mistria,
town, and then
and then Mistria is
Aldaria.
the bigger.
No,
Okay,
I think the
Aldaria is the
kingdom
bigger place.
Aldaria is the big
Gotcha,
like
gotcha, gotcha.
kingdom. Yeah.
So the town has experienced some hardships before you come in. There was a big earthquake. The apparently Aldaria has a situation set up where towns are ranked socially, and like
Like,
They
kind
have
of
like a
messed up.
cloudometer.
I know.
like-
I'm like, this
it's,
is
you
not a
know,
great system.
it's, maybe it sucks to punish people for having an earthquake, but whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that kind of like representative of so many societal structures though? Like the places that need the most help
they're
are
not
often
wrong.
like it's like
Yeah.
the only thing that this game is missing is like I guess am I the gentrifier then? I'm coming in and gentrifying fucking Mistria to make it.
But like you don't cost anything extra.
People from other parts of Aldaria are like, oh, Mistria, I heard it's really dangerous. Like, actually, if you came to the community, you would know that this is a community-owned community, all right?
Yeah.
Because you're out there in your ivory tower, afraid
Stop
of
by the
Mistria over
inn.
here.
Yeah.
Walk down in the mines. It's actually not that dangerous. Relax.
That's true.
So you're introduced to this very early on. There is a quest board, but also anyone can pop up and kind of ask you for things. And the more that you do for the town, the more its renown and its kind of level increases, and which unlocks certain events and certain items, possibly depending on what quest you're doing. So you have that as a system that's going. So you want to constantly be doing stuff that increases your renown. But you also have a system where we're talking about this dragon. We have a stone dragon statue on our land, which you don't really know what it is. It's a mysterious thing. Um and after it gets revealed, it starts like talking to you for
Yeah.
some reason that
It
you will
appeared
find
to
out.
us in a dream. Or was it a dream at all? I don't know.
Oh.
I wasn't I went to bed and then I saw this dragon and he was like, "Hey, pull up or something." I don't know. He was like, "You're special." And I'm like, "I am special."
I'm gonna change the dialogue to be exactly what Janet just said, by the way.
Yeah.
And the sort of what we find out about the statue and its function in the game is it allows for you to gain a kind of experience system and purchase perks. And you can like you start off on like level 1 perks, and the more you do things, cut down trees, farm, fish, mine, literally anything you can do in this game, essentially cooking, which I just made tea and I'm so excited about that. You get these little like light sprites that contribute to, and you it's a resource that you have, it collects, and you collect it, and then you can take it to the statue and you can purchase perks which will do things like uh any recipe for cooking or even just making furniture or whatever will be 10 minutes less, or you will use less resources when you are crafting things, or you will have more treasure pop up when you go through the mines or whatever, what have you. You can spend it how you will, but it's also integrated into um, doing things in a different way. In that, the more you do one particular thing, so let's say like fighting. Say you're really interested in combat, and you go into the mines every day and you're just fighting away. Um, Once you level up enough in like you're getting experience as you hit things, you unlock tier 2 and then tier 3. So this is specifically for doing that specific thing. Whereas like the light sprites you can spend anywhere on any perk, but you can only unlock tiers if you're doing that specific thing. So like my mining tier is almost up to 20 right now. Like I mine a lot. That's what I'm having a lot of fun doing. Or like archaeology, super high. Like I'm not a huge farmer. I have a couple of crops, but I'm not messing around too much. Um, so like my farming abilities are not I can't unlock certain perks above level 1 of farming right now. Sorry. I'm not a great farmer. I am a great archaeologist, however. So now I have like I'm getting increasingly cooler archaeologist related perks that I can unlock. But of course, as they get cooler, they get more expensive, so I have to be doing more of it in order to unlock it. So it's like it's this great like system upon system feeding into, well, and Janet talked about like your own little projects. Like you always have, okay, I really want to get to level 20 in archaeology right now. So I'm just going to go to the dig sites and start digging away and try to get things, which then feeds into renown because when you have objects that you dig up that you've never found before, very, very similar to Animal Crossing, you can donate them to the museum and increase your renown. So I am increasing my archaeology and my renown at the same time. And that's what I'm like, kind of how I'm living the game right now and getting money because once you find more than one thing, you can sell off. You don't have to donate anymore. You can sell it off, get money. And then when you complete a set in the museum, so if you get all of the corrupts for a certain season, you will get a reward. Could be money, it could be a cosmetic, it could be a combination of the two. So it's just a constant layer of systems that you aren't really burdened with at all. You don't have to think about them for the most part, unless you're one of these
Yeah.
people who really likes to min-max all of that. But like, no matter what you're doing in this game, you are increasing something. You are
Mhm.
increasing the game enjoyment. And it's really, really well done how they've put all of this together. So
Yeah, like I
Mhm.
not gonna lie, you explaining all the systems, one, it is a testament to just how much is actually going on under the hood. I think this game is like
Mhm.
deceptively simple, right? It's like, oh, you kind of glance at it and I think you feel like you know it because it's like, oh yeah, like I walk around and then like I still say hi and I hit like a stone and the end. But there's so much happening because there's like, and that's why I think that really is for me the magic is that I don't do the same thing every day. I pick what I'm base theming my day on. Like that's personally how I end up playing.
Mhm.
Like I was looking at my levels now. It just took me a while to figure out like how that leveling system that you just described even works, Jill. Because I was kind of like, well, why can't I can't make anything really. And then I'm like, oh, like now I can make more, you have like more options of things that you're capable of making. And then there's obviously, recipes you can learn. Then you can like cook this thing, but you might not have the ingredient. You can buy the ingredient or you can try to source it. I'm also just cheap as hell. I'm cheap as hell and I'm broke as hell in this game because I'm like, I don't know how to make
always.
money, but also I can't stand getting rid of things in this game because I'm like, I just know that I'm gonna like find a fucking rock in my shoe, and then tomorrow someone's like, you know what, I love shoe rocks, and I'm like, great, I just sold mine because I thought it was garbage, and I'm really really poor. So every Saturday they're like, you should really go to the market. And I'm like, oh yeah, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? I bought
Mhm.
one thing, which I really shouldn't. I had like $600 and I spent 500 on a new haircut.
Yeah,
I
you
have nothing in
did.
this game. I have nothing. Um, but yeah, there's just so much happening, and like no day's the same because I have different things that I might be trying to pursue. Like obviously the mines are very valuable in that there's like stuff in the mines. And that's cool. And it's like there's like a bunch of resources and you can like fight little creatures and that's pretty fun. So I'm often drawn to the mines, but like, it takes a while to get down there. You're trying to work the floors, unlock the elevators to like fast go back down. And, then you might need to pack some food before. And it's like, okay, it's going to take me a while to make the food. Maybe I make food one day and I go down the mines a different day. And there's like so many different angles for it. You might, if you stay up too late, you sleep in the next day and you have a little bit less stamina. So it's like, okay, maybe today's not a good mine day. Maybe we'll take it easy and like hang out in the town. And then like, 14 hours in, and granted, part of it is my own personal ignorance to not like being able to figure out some of the systems going on in the game, but also like I've just been so busy with so many other things. It's like, oh my, like I barely got animals like a day or two ago in the game. So it's like, cool, ranching's level 3 for me. I've been really excited to even get to do this. Okay, let's see what kind of stuff do I want to do with ranching. It's like, oh, I have barely done the archaeology stuff because it took me forever to understand like where can I dig? Like, what's up with dig? It's like, okay, it's these little lumps in the ground. Okay, I'm gonna get a new dig site, and then okay, so I can shovel here, and like slowly piecing all that together. Like, I just love how this early on, even it just being an early access game, which early access always means that it's still in development, it's still very much being worked on, but it is good enough to sell. At that point, it's kind of the pitch of what early access is, and I love that there's still stuff that I get to like find out. Like I barely because like I like do the things I like to do mostly, and every now and then I'll dip into other stuff. So it's like I barely found out that if you go towards the like the main like castle-y area where like the brother and sister are at, it's like, oh, to the right they have a garden and you can take those roses from the bush. Those are free roses. I'm like, oh, there's a pond here. Cool, let me fish in the pond. And then I turned it in. They're like, this is one pond fish. I was like, okay, so there's like, oh, summer pond fish. Okay, well, this is like gonna change everything. And I think it's so enjoyable and it goes by so quickly. Like the days are like pretty short and there's only like 30 days per month, maybe plus minus depending on how accurate they are in the real
28.
calendar. Yeah, 28. So it goes by so quick. I think I also don't feel the push of like wanting to like necessarily like needing to be efficient. Like I want to be efficient. Like next season, I'm like, okay, cool. Like now I know if I plant something and then the season ends, they all die. So I like wasted all my money buying all these seeds 2 days ago. But I'm like, oh, or now I can stock up. And when next season hits, I can like right away plant and like, and I'm
Mhm.
excited about like, I feel like failing, if you want to call it that, in your first year is exciting because it gives you an opportunity to have a plan for next year. So I'm like, okay, this is like my learning year. And by next year, I'm going to like know what's going on. We're going to have the farm. We're going to like it be more in like the zone with things. And yeah, I think that's just like, it's been really fun. There's like so much here. I'm not sure when I'll hit like the wall of, okay, I feel like I've gotten all I can get out of this early access period, but it's just a really good time. And then like obviously it's definitely my algorithm, but I'm seeing like everyone play this game, but that's just because it's my algorithm where it's like every TikTok live is like Fields of Mistria, Fields of Mistria, Fields of Stardew mod, Fields of Mistria, Stardew mod. You know, then people in the chat like, is this so Stardew mod? No, this is Fields of Mistria. Like it's just like I don't know. It's so fun, and it's just like it's just a good time of I think as someone who being as someone who covers like games, right? Like I think a lot of times it's like we are kind of creating that content and we're kind of doing a bunch of content and the rest of the world is like slow to catch up. I feel like a game like this, because there's such like an avid fan base for the genre, because it's early access, like I love that it feels like I'm part of something, you know, we're all here, we're all
Mhm.
learning at the same time. Like I go to the Steam page and I'm reading the little discussion posts. I'm like, maybe I can learn a little thing, you know, seeing people's
Mhm.
content. And I think that's something that only these like longer form and or ongoing games can really fully provide, because you know you finish God of War and like you're done. Like sure, maybe there's stuff about like the Valkyries or how to spec your character, or like sometimes there's like games have secret endings and things like that, but for the most part like games are sort of known quantities and known experiences. And I think this game is so ripe with little details, like they give you just what you need to know to play it and nothing more, which makes it like easy to play if you like don't even know anything, but then exciting as you discover more stuff. Like now that I know how to gift, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna start like y'all ain't ready for like the apple pie I'm gonna make or whatever the hell. Also, I feel really guilty because people have been giving me things. They're like, here, this is thank you here for the wood blocks. Here's like a my grandmother's scone, and I'm like, thank you. Immediately in the sale bin,
Mhm. Yep. Mhm. Getting
immediately
that
selling
money.
this. Yeah, I'm like, I'm like, oh, I'll finish mine by the sales bin. You know, just
Oops. It went in. That's fantastic. I think
Mhm.
it also brings up a lot of what I'm excited about too is like the future. And I know that there's an element of this game, and I have seen people who are already in the future, um, who have resources and time and the ability to like start creating the farm of their dreams. And I'm
Mhm.
not there yet because I don't have enough buildup and the ability to actually make things. But like, I'm so excited for the day where I'm like
Yeah.
looking around my plot and being like, okay, this is where I'm going to place the picnic area. This is where I'm going to do the hedge maze. This is where I'm going to do, you know. So I'm extremely excited about that. But also, I want to jump back a little bit and talk about the characters, because one of the big flashpoints of this game is the characters are so hot, you guys. All of them. They are so intensely attractive. Um so I'm going to have Jenny talk about these characters a little bit, cuz I know that's where her juice is coming from this game, the social aspect, how cool all of them are. So I want to ask, who are you going for? Like um we
Mhm.
all need to come together to decide who Mike would go for,
I'm
because
so
he's
excited to
not
talk about
here.
Mike's potential pick
Yeah.
in this game.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
also I just getting through the different seasons, realizing that they change
I
clothes.
love that they
Yes.
change clothes. I
It's
think that's
so
so
good.
fun.
So
It
genius.
makes
And
them
I'm
feel
like,
so real. Like you're like,
yes.
oh yeah. And then I
And I
changed
like,
my clothes too, so I could be part of it. You know, I'm
Same. I
like,
have my presets all ready for the seasons and like different activities.
okay, Jenny, tell us, who are you after in this game?
Okay. So
I didn't even know you could do presets, Jenny. So thank you
oh
for.
my god. Yeah,
I
there's
never
like I
clicked
think
it.
6 or 8 outfit presets, and so I have like one for
Oh
each
hell yeah!
season, and then I have like
I
my
put on my hat
adventuring
when it
mining thing.
rains.
Yeah,
You know,
it's so
yeah.
cute. Okay. I love them all. I'm going to romance them all. And since we don't have marriage quite yet, I'm like lucky we don't have to pick officially, but I think my number one right now is March, and he is the sort of, his hair is dyed
Ooh.
red. He's the blacksmith. I will say I'm so sad we can't also date his brother Ulrich, because his brother is also very cute, but he's not dateable, which honestly I guess
Mm.
helps me out because then I don't have to like pick between the two. But March is for me. He is the classic like tsundere like archetype, where you come into the village and he's like, "Ugh, you're not here for the right reasons. Like, you're not really going to be a part of the community. Get out. Like, you don't belong here." And I'm just like, okay, say more, like what else? What else? Hate me. Oh God. And yeah, he's so mean and I love him so much. And it's really cute because I actually noticed, I think in his fall, because he dyes his hair red. And at first I thought he was just like a redheaded guy, but you find out he dyes his hair red at Saturday Market because he goes to
Mhm.
Vera. And in fall, I think you can see like the shadow of his roots. So his natural hair is growing in a little bit with the red, which is like
Ooh.
so cute and just a fun little detail. But I love it. I've like, again, we can't get to like full heart status, but he's now treating me quite nicely. Like he's being more nice and less standoffish, which is great. I also really love, I think her name's Raina.
Yeah.
She is the cook at the inn, and she is so sweet and just wonderful. Hayden also is huge for me, and then I think Balor, the merchant, who has a bit of a shady, like once you start getting to know him, there's a bit of a mysterious side story with like, what is he doing? How is he getting
Mhm.
all of this merchandise for so
Merchandise.
cheap? And it's like that kind of lore where I'm like,
Mm.
what's going on? Oh my gosh. Uh, yeah, they're all
It's
so
gonna
So
turn
cute.
he
out that
like
he's
steal
just
you a fake
nice,
Gucci
yeah.
handbag,
Oh
you
my
know?
god,
It's like,
Yeah.
right?
okay.
So I think March
He's
is
like, it's all
my
profit for me. I'll just sell it at whatever.
no, it's so great. He's always like, he is definitely, he loves the finer things in life. I give him sapphires. He is the most expensive person to give gifts to. Um, I love him. But yeah, so March is my personal favorite. I would love to hear who you both are. Well, I guess Janet, you're just now learning how to give gifts, but who would
Yeah,
you
but
romance?
mentally,
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
um,
there.
it's funny because I'm like, I don't really care about romance like that in this game. And yet I also feel like I'm picking March, which I hate that for myself because he's like the fuckboy of the game.
Mm.
And I feel like, what am I gonna say here? How much
Yeah.
how much history am I supposed to unearth on this podcast? Like,
Right.
look,
You know,
I don't
we just
know.
embrace and accept who we
And
are.
like
Mhm.
in my
Mhm.
mind, I'm kind of like, oh, I'm just picking someone random. No, I'm not. Like it's just
I
like, you know what I
mean,
mean? It's
okay,
like,
but hear me out
something
because the
about yeah, it's like
dragon
that Vegeta kind of the dragon. Also,
Yeah,
even
he's
romance
got
the
the
dragon. I
Vegeta.
want to romance the
the
dragon.
dragon has a
Like
heart,
that's
so that means we can romance
my
the
number
dragon.
one. My number one is the dragon.
Yeah, of
That's what that
course.
meant. I thought it was just cute UI. I was like, I don't know anything in this game. I don't know what the fuck this game is. I'm just playing this game and I don't know what's going on. Okay. Anyway, I'm just like, everyone's so nice in this like swinger town. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. So yeah, my number one's definitely the dragon. That's the only person / object I'm committed to. Like me and the dragon are locked in. But yeah, I guess like it's like why not be a little toxic in this game, right? Like March is the toxic pick. Like the easy pick to me is the who's the I'm looking through the names now
I
because
think
it's everyone.
Ryden, he's also up there for me. He's like the safe bet. Him and Hayden, I think, are my personal safe bets. Maybe Celine.
Oh,
They're all
Juniper is like
Juniper's a
very
Juniper
little
like
is the
bit
hottie
like
hot, but like I don't know how I feel
she's
about.
like the obvious pick. So I feel like I don't know, like oh the hot person. Yeah, I mean they're all hot, but like I feel like
They're
she's
all
like
very very hot.
specifically made to be like kind of in the way that that one guy is like made to be like the daddy character. It's like oh like they're like hot in a very specific way. So I'm
mhm.
like oh, she's kind of too obviously hot. It's like I don't know like whatever.
Can't
And
go for that.
but also like maybe it's like because March like you can because it's a video game. This is like in real life this person is like a horrible person to be with. In a video game
Absolutely.
he changes and it's the power fantasy of someone
Yeah.
horrible becoming someone good for you. That doesn't get to happen. I
Mhm.
also don't have a farm. Sue me. Like so yeah, I'm going with this toxic guy because this is it's a virtual space, so it's safe to chase the toxicity.
Absolutely. I mean,
When in
it's the
real life,
same.
it's like he's not gonna pick you. Like I don't know what you're doing
No.
here. You know what I mean? It's like oh.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's honestly like when I was playing Stardew, I think the first person you picked romance in Stardew says a lot about you. I think it's really fun. I'm like, I pick Shane. Yeah, that's another It's like, that is not who you would pick in
See,
real life
I feel like
ever.
he's too mean because I played only a little bit of Stardew
He
Valley,
is
and I'm
too
like, oh,
mean.
he's over. Like, I feel like March
He's got real issues.
you get like
Yeah,
a
he
little
does have
bit of
real
like
issues.
I feel like March is less like extreme and the like he's a jerk
Mhm.
because he's also kind of like I'm just sort of grumpy. He's like a grumpy kind of jerk instead of
Right.
like a jerk.
Yeah.
So I think that makes it
They're
a little
cut
less
from
toxic. I don't
similar
know.
cloths. They're cut from similar,
Yeah.
like, they're the same. Like, Stardew in
The-
just a lot of things is more extreme.
Yeah.
But I think they
They're the
both have
same
the
station seeds. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So
I
So
feel
Jill, what
vindicated that
about
you also
you?
picked March though. Yeah.
I'm sort of nervous about revealing this now, but like March is like my last choice.
Jill's the only one
Um,
with a healthy.
I mean, to
I'm
be
sorry.
honest, he's fucking terrible. Like, he's a
I was
he's
immediately
the
like,
worst person in this
no,
game.
you have to work for me, not the other way around, March.
Yeah.
So my the person I'm going after is Reese. I'm 100%
Reese,
team Reese.
yeah.
He is the carpenter. And
He's
I'm
so
like,
sweet.
oh, I love this. This is perfect. I don't know what's going on with your look.
Oh, he's also on my list too. So watch
Yeah.
out.
Okay, good,
like that's
good.
like up there as well. Like which is the
It's like
opposite of March.
Yeah, well, that's why you need them both up there. Like Reese and Hayden,
Yeah.
I think of the guys who are romanceable are like, those are the ones that are green flags. You take them home to your parents, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, great.
Look, in real life, I'm engaged to Reese. All right, in this game,
Yeah.
I'm in with March. All right? What do you want me into?
And then my backup was actually Valen.
Oh, let me look.
Oh,
find-
yeah, the doc. I can see that.
Yeah,
Yes.
the doctor. I find
That
very
doctor's so
intriguing.
persona coded to me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think it's just
For
like
sure.
something about the vibes. But yeah, there's
I would have.
the character's really fun.
How do you feel about Island? Because I was thinking you would pick like probably like a Reese and an Island. Is that how you pronounce his name? Pink-haired brother.
I'll say Island. Yeah.
Yeah. Is he on the radar for you at all? Because I'm
I
like,
don't
he's
think
Yeah,
so.
I thought you were gonna
He's
pick
a
Island
little-
too.
He's a little. Oh, I'm learning things about what people think about me. I think he's a little too. He's not a like someone who's going to be a rock. You know, he's not going to be a rock. He's not going to be.
He
there
loves
for you.
archaeology.
He loves archaeology. He's going for the rock. But like I love that he loves history. I love that, but he's like I'm not going to be dating the rich boy. You know what I'm
Mhm,
saying?
mhm.
Like you got that
fair.
privilege.
Too high
that-
maintenance.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those things where he's
Jill's like,
oh,
why am I
don't
going
we-"
50-50? You know, like
Yeah. It's like, why don't we just head to like Paris for the weekend or something? I'm like, I can't pay for that. I don't know. They're like, what? Why don't you ask your parents? I don't. We don't live in the same world.
I really
it
am
doesn't
kind of
work
learning
out.
something.
It
You
doesn't
have
work
ready
out.
to go as a story. I think
That has a
Baylor
lot
and
to do with
Island.
things.
I know.
Yes.
I think Baylor and Island are also like to me, like when I was playing this game, I was thinking about like who are these people for, right? You know, and it's like, oh, this is like for the Fire Emblem
Mhm.
girls and boys out there. Like Baylor and
Baylor for
Island
sure.
are
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Fire Emblem coded. Like they're hot in like a fantasy kind of like fantasy game kind of way, you know?
Mhm.
But yeah, it is cool that like they're not all like they have like flavors, but they're not like complete tropes. So they're just like there's a little something for everybody. And it's a reflection of self, really. But you know, what are you gonna do? Like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
you recognize and self-reflect a lot on
Like-
yourself in your choices here.
Me and this dragon, even though also dragon getting sketch vibes from this dragon. I'm like, is he evil? Like, I'm getting
Honestly,
evil.
though.
I get such an
Like,
evil vibe. I don't know.
I just finished part of the reason you're going through the mines is you get magic in
Mhm.
this game, which is
Yeah.
really cool. The first spell you learn is replenishing your health and energy all the way back to the top. So you can effectively like have double health and energy for one day. So like in the mines, that's perfect when you've been like
Yeah.
fighting things and you're like an inch from death and you can barely lift your arms and all of a sudden like doo doo doo, I am back to 100. Having opened the first seal, and I don't want to go too much into what that means.
Yeah, I
but
haven't opened it yet.
anyone who
so
knows
don't spoil
knows.
it.
Mhm.
Um
Because I sold
And-
all the stuff that I'm supposed to use to open it, and this why I don't sell anything. They're like, oh, that thing you sold yesterday? Well, you need that now. I'm like,
Well,
great.
it's all stuff you can find in the mines, though. So at least there's like
Why
it
are you taking the
again.
game side, Jill?
At least, very well designed in that way. The things that you hear after that, it sort of immediately I was like, am I the baddie? Is
Yeah, I feel like he's
this
kind of the devil. Like he's like March
is
but
this
made
a
of
problem?
stone. That's the only difference. He's the same character.
Like I'm trying so hard to make this town like gold level, platinum level, whatever the top level is for towns in this horrific social system they have going. And I don't know if I'm about to like unleash this primordial power upon them. But I get extra like time to make things. So
Yeah. I do feel like you are kind of right, like making a deal with the devil a little bit, right? Where it's like, oh, you're now gonna like have these powers, but it's like, and then it's so interesting because the game, from like a narrative perspective, like you find out that there's like the seal and there's like some writing and you take it back. I also really like that a small thing that for cutscenes, which there aren't that many, but for cutscenes they like kind of pause the timer. So it's like I got to like a cutscene at like 10. I'm like, oh, I hope this is ending soon because I gotta go sleep. And it's like all good. And they kind of zoop you wherever you need to go for it. It's very convenient. But they're kind of like, oh yeah, like we heard a long time ago, maybe like dragons and humans could talk. I was like, whoa, really? Like, like knowing I'm talking to this dragon every day. I was like, I don't know.
oh
Like,
yeah.
I feel like I'm kind of I'm a little shady myself in this game just by design, because it's not like they gave me a dialogue option of like, yeah, I talked to this statue every day. Maybe there was actually an option. I didn't pick it, but I don't know. I'm a little concerned, but I love this dragon and he gives me powers. So the end.
Yep. That's how we don't need to worry about what else might be happening in the background. What we do need to worry about, who is the goodest boy in this game? We have two obvious choices here. Got Dozy probably because it's sleepy. Which is the cutest like golden retriever you've ever seen in your whole life. And all it does is like lay down and ask for belly rubs and help out.
Run the
like
bathhouse.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which again, dialogue is fantastic here because it just says like you get the feeling that this dog wants you to go to the bath. Like it's so great. Or Henrietta, who is the pet chicken of Hayden.
Henrietta.
I love Henrietta.
Yeah.
I'm a Henrietta stan. Like,
I was thinking I would have to like convince you guys over to the Henrietta side because Dozy is so freaking cute. It's just like so happy to see you all the time and get pets and stuff. But like Henrietta has gumption, has a sense of self and dignity. And I'm just like, first of all, Henrietta is a hen. That's a pun of a name. That's hilarious. Yeah. I love it. Dozy is a like, sort of play on words, but
yeah, I think too. I mean, look, I'm not trying to offend any of our listeners. I think dogs are great animals. I want to have a dog at one point. That being said, I think we all know that one of a dog's best traits is its empty mind and undying loyalty. Like a dog is like you had to work for it with Henrietta. Henrietta is just like the farm version of a cat, and I like cats, so it's like yeah. Also, I just think it's a little bit more of the unusual like included animal. I mean, on one hand, it's like, oh, it's a farming game, so sure. But I do think there's something really cute about making animals townspeople at all. It's like, oh, it's a little unexpected and a little funky. And, one of the first flavor texts you get for Henrietta is like Henrietta like knows that you're trying to like kiss ass and she doesn't doesn't care, It's like, oh, okay, like, yeah, it's fair. Like, Henrietta knows who you are, and Dozy or Doozy, whatever, if that's even your real name, it's like he'll just be like, "Oh, I'm happy to see you," because I'm a dog. But like Henrietta's like, "Yeah, I'm not, I'm not that simple." So I enjoy the complexity of Henrietta.
Yeah, and it's like not just you who's developing a relationship with Henrietta. Again, it's like different villagers have different relationships with Henrietta, so it's really fun to see. Like, there's a cutscene where one villager and Henrietta like get into it a little bit, and then everyone kind of like takes different sides, and I'm just like, oh my god, it's great. And it's like a pretty early cutscene, so it's really fun that it again establishes her as like, no, this isn't just a chicken, this is like a villager that everyone else pays attention to too.
And Hayden is like completely 100% this is a person, not an
Mhm.
animal, and I absolutely love that.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, man, I feel like we need to have like we'll pretend that Mike threw in for Dozy because someone needs to
Oh
be
yeah,
on Dozy's side.
who's Mike
Oh yeah,
romancing?
yeah,
We
yeah.
should
Who is
get to
Mike
that
gonna
before.
romance? Let's look. Okay, so
I
our
think
options we've got
I think Juniper.
Juniper is what I would say too, because Juniper's
Yeah.
like a horror
Alt
monster.
coded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
like loves that stuff.
Yeah.
I
She's
feel
also
bad
a
that
little
we haven't
mean.
like she is a little
I feel like
mean.
Mike
Yeah.
could
She's
be a
the
little
most
into
like
that.
she's the most like tonight will be the night that I will fall for you coded, so I feel like
I don't know. Maybe Celine too, though. If you want to like hedge your
Mm,
bets.
mhm.
Celine's kind of like a little giving a little too much tradaway for me to think that Mike would
She's
pick her, but
she's like Celine's so interesting to me because she's like super cleric coded as well, where I'm just like, you would be the
Yes,
healer in a
yes.
party and you're really
yeah.
sweet, but you're also a little bit, I don't want to say bland because I'm sure like as we get to know her, things will keep coming
Yeah.
out. But I think she is probably the most, I would say, one note character. If I had to pick one that was like maybe if I were ranking them, she would be the most one note for me in the whole game.
I'm
Which is
so
funny because she's on
excited
the
to find
cover of the
out.
game.
Yeah.
So I'm
Mhm.
like, there's gotta be maybe more going on than
Yeah.
She's like the dragon or something.
Yeah, watch her be the dragon at the end.
Yeah.
let me s-
Cuz like I don't know where y'all are at with everyone's storylines, but like I'm starting to learn things about people and almost everyone seems to have some sort of what's that in your basement
Mhm.
situation going
Mhm.
on. And you're like, what you doing with that?
Yeah. I won't share one for like any of the romanceables because I feel like those are a bit more like special because you're like romancing them on top of it. But there's discussion I think I got it near the end of spring, so that's relatively early on. Where what is her name? The fisher woman Terithia?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's Terithia, and then there's Landon, who's like the uncle of Reese, and the other the
Enroll?
Errol. Yeah, Errol. It's like there's allusions to perhaps the three of them being in this sort of love triangle, and it's like that's the kind of that's what I'm here
Mm.
for. I want this
Mhm.
drama to start to unearth itself, and like again, we mentioned, is it Balor's like perhaps illicit merchant dealings. It's like things like that. And I'm so excited because I think we're early enough that we're not getting all of the lore because the content isn't done, but the teases that we get are enough that I'm like very here for it.
So before we move on from Fields of Mistria, what are some things you're hoping to accomplish currently in the game? What are you looking to the horizon for?
Learning how to play it because apparently I don't know how to play this game. I guess for me, because I've have more time than I have progress. I think just opening that door once I find like the things that I need that I already had, but that's okay. And then I think just like doing more archaeology and doing more farming. Like I'm very into like the farming part because of the animals specifically. And then I think the last thing, if I had to just narrow it down to three, would be getting into an economic flow. I feel like right now I don't have like a plan for how to make money and how to like what do I want to save and what do I want to like sell. So just having more of a plan than like right now I'm literally I'll just make like 4 chairs and sell the chairs. I'm like, I haven't even done the math. I don't even know if that's more viable than just selling the wood. I'd have to assume it is, but I don't know. Like just having like something to fall back on that is like, oh, this is what I sell and everything else I keep and I use it to make like building more of my systems out, I think is what I'm looking forward to. But what about y'all?
I'm in year 2 at the moment, so I'm mostly at this point focusing on customizing my farm. I think I've maxed out all of like the tier upgrades that you can get on your character. I've maxed out like the 4. I think you can only get up to 4 hearts currently, so I think I'm maxed out on hearts for most everyone except some of the Saturday morning vendors. And so yeah, it's just customization at this point for me and just like being excited for the rest of the content that's coming. Supposedly by the end of the year, we're going to get another content drop. So very stoked for
Exciting.
that.
I think I'm really excited, and I don't know if this is going to be in early access. I'm really excited to unlock, open up, get access to some of the things that are obviously like closed down or like blocked off in some way.
Yeah. Mhm.
Because then we've had a couple of, I've already had a couple of situations where like, hey, it's triggered, mechanically because you've gotten to a certain level of renown or whatever. But um, someone comes up to you and is like, "Hey, why don't we fix the stairs going up to the summit so that we can see the pretty view or whatever?" And then you go up there and it's got like fresh resources or something. I'm like, "Yeah." Or like
Mhm.
I just upgraded the general store so now I can buy more things. Um, and the mill also is something that was closed and broken down. So like I love not only getting access to more things, but like seeing the town actually like that my actions are actually increasing the town in some way, which is something that you don't get for a lot of like Stardew Valley. Some things you sort of change, but for the most part, like the town itself doesn't really react to you being there. So the
Mhm.
fact that me being there, this town is already like I have a number of renown, but like the town now has a mill and a better shop and
Oh my
has
god, I forgot about the mill. I haven't been doing
you
I
got to
haven't
go
been
do
doing
that
anything.
mill.
I know, yeah, I forgot. Like I got so carried away.
So yeah, just I see that there is a like closed off thing next to the bathhouse and I'm like if I get a better bathhouse, I'm super down. Like I'm involved in this. So that's where I am right now, but Fields of Mystery is still in early access, so we will see what happens there. Let's talk about games that we have been playing. And I want to point out that both Jenny and Janet put Fields of Mystery in this list.
It's
Like we
taken up
weren't going to
so
talk
much
about it.
time.
I know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Jenny, what else do you have on your list besides Fields of Mystery?
Let's see. I'll start with the two. So the first two I'll talk about, I just want to caveat both of them did sponsor me for posts online, but like me talking about it here is not a sponsored thing. So the first is Lexaman, which is like playing on the words lexicon and like a superhero name. That one is done by Knights of Borea, and it was a really intriguing game because I was like, it's not my style aesthetically. Like you look at it, it's very like I don't even know what to call it. It's like pixel art, but like very clunky, intentionally clunky looking pixel art. Um, After playing it though, it had a lot of like, it's a little rough around the edges, but it has enough charm where I was like, this is actually really intriguing to me. You play this person who stumbles upon a magical school with a magical book of lexiconal magic in your hand, and you get taken in by the headmaster. And turns out you're just clumsy and not very good at magic. And so the headmaster, after being so utterly frustrated with you, throws you in what's called the learner's basement, and you're just basically shunned with a bunch of other misfits in the school. And you have to learn magic on your own. Fast forward like 10 years later, you are now Lexaman, the wizard, and you have to help save the school using your power of words. And so you combine different words to create spells, and these spells can do either very silly things to help win the battle, or you can try to go a more traditional route. And it's not super long, it's not incredibly complex, but it was just one of those where I'm like, this is weird and a little bit in your face, but I'm having a good time with it. And it's such a change of pace, especially from Fields. I was like, I'm digging it. So I think if you enjoy games that have that wordplay, it's a little bit less focused on that though, and I think more focused on embracing fun mechanics that you can draw in from other games. So the wordplay sometimes was just in RPG battles. Sometimes you have these vampire survivor moments. It's like they bring in just these tributes to other games that I thought were really fun. So that was a really cool discovery because that wasn't actually even on my radar until they reached out. And the other one was Creatures of Ava, which I had been following and was quite excited to play because the big hook they have for it is this is a fantasy game written by, or at least the narrative direction was led by Rihanna Pratchett, who's a fantasy author. And so I was like, that's pretty cool. Love seeing these sort of different industries coming into games and seeing what they can do. And the premise is you are a kind of like this biologist explorer visiting this planet in order to kind of Noah's Ark it, collect creatures to preserve them in this bio ark up in space because there's this rot that's claiming a lot of the planet. What is most intriguing about it is that the people who are the sort of native inhabitants of that planet don't believe that you're doing the right thing. And so there's a lot of tension
Mm.
between what you think you are doing, which is like preserving this life and trying to save these creatures and the people who live there, but the people on the planet saying, you don't understand, you don't, this isn't your home, you don't get it, this isn't really what we want. And I thought that was, I think in some places they succeeded with this theme. In some places it was a little bit clunkier. But I appreciate that they brought that perspective and that they tried something with this topic because I think it's a really important one to explore. And the mechanics were really fun. You have this like Pied Piper situation where you learn the songs of each creature type. And so you get to like play a little flute and they follow you around. You can tell that this was created with a huge attention to detail for each of the creatures. And so you basically, it looks like a laser, but you're just like calming them down so that you can like put them into the bioarc. Basically, it's not actually a laser. And as you're going, it's like you're saving them, you're not like shooting these creatures.
Not lasers.
Yeah, they're not lasers. And so you're collecting creatures, you're playing your Pied Piper flute to like corral them, and there's a lot of photography, so it actually played a lot like a Pokemon Snap almost, where you're like, in addition to carrying or collecting these creatures, you're taking pictures of them ostensibly for research. Yeah, I thought it was surprisingly solid. Like I was impressed. And by the end, I was like, that it was ambitious. Again, stumbled on a few parts, I think, but overall, like a very solid game that I would recommend if it looks intriguing to you. Probably worth a play.
Love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to scoot over to
Oh yeah,
Janet because she has a heart out. So Janet, what are you playing?
Yeah, I'll be brief because I got to dip out pretty soon. But the big one I want to shout out is Sticky Business. I know I'm late to it, but I've been wanting to play it forever. I did a big stream for part of my charity fundraiser for the American Heart Association, and the theme was just like heart's desires, heart's content. And I'm like, I've been wanting to play this for so long. I loved it. I thought it was super fun. I know that it is kind of limited in what kind of simulator it is. It's very straightforward. You're just packing up stickers. There's, designing as well and adding them to your shop. So there's like a little bit of layers there. There's like a cute little Twitch integration where your viewers can like order stickers from you. But while it's kind of a simple sell, I thought it was just really fun to do. And I like, while I was playing it, I closed out the game and I bought the DLC because I'm like, I want more stickers. Like, and it's like, the joy of like, I can finally just mess with stickers and not end up with like 800 stickers that I don't use, which is what happens in real life. But here it's like, oh, it's all for the business, But yeah, other very, very brief nods. Cat Quest 3, like it with another person. Don't know if I'd like it as much on my own, but as co-op, cool. Thank goodness you're here. Did not hit for me. We can talk more about it later, maybe. But the humor just like, it just wasn't funny to me. So it's like, I don't know what to do with that. Like yeah, I think it's if you like that kind of more,
it's super
gross
British.
slash like if you liked the Amanda Bynes show as a kid, I think you would find it funny. But I didn't like the Amanda Bynes show as a kid, except that I respect the Dancing Lobsters, but I don't like that kind of sketch comedy.
I was gonna say it has a very Nickelodeon vibe, like Nickelodeon cartoons from the 90s, which also I think I'm with you where I was like, I can respect the polish and like the direction. I didn't laugh as much as I was hoping I would laugh.
Yeah, it's also a lot of the jokes are like very phallic leaning. So if that's like, which I'm not a prude by any means, but it's just like I just didn't find it like, it's not funny enough to be like, this thing is like shaped like a dick. It's like I need a little bit more juice for that to be like the punchline. So it didn't really hit for me. Ete is a really cool painting game. I enjoyed it. It's not my favorite of the style, but if you like messing around and painting things, it's cool. Valley Peaks, fun platformer, climbing game. If I continue with any of those, I'll bring them back for what you've been playing and talk more about them when I have more time. But yeah, enjoyed them generally, those last two.
Perfect. I do want to shout out the Nightling, which I got to preview and the embargo is up, so now I can talk about it. It is very Breath of the Wildy in the sense that you like, it's got that color, it's got that playfulness. It's a little more playful, a little more like cartoony, Um, the traversal is the big shining star here. You're able to like jump on your shield and just zoom around, and then when you're not on your shield, you can run around very quickly. Um, Action platformer sort of game. It's got some very interesting ideas to it. So I'm interested to see where that goes. Definitely want to shout out Scarlet Deer Inn has a demo right now,
Mhm.
and y'all are not ready for what's going to happen in that. Like, I had people going in thinking they were just going to pet some sheep, and that's not what happens, I promise you. So go check that out. Dungeons and Degenerate Gamblers is
Mm. Yeah.
it's real
Mhm.
fun. If you were looking for something like Balatro, this is what you want to jump into. The Crush House, I'm still kind of reserving my thoughts on. You are the producer on a reality TV show. I'm not sure that the engagement for me is there. But maybe as I get farther into it. And then Dustborn is also releasing. And I think there are some interesting ideas here. I think there are some things that hinder my appreciation of it. And I'd be surprised if there weren't equally mixed feelings for a lot of the reviews that you will see. Um, but yeah, that's it for this week's council. Thank you,
I didn't
everyone,
like
for
Dustborn
joining
either.
us.
I demoed it like a year ago and I didn't like it.
I think it has some really cool things that I really appreciate, and some things that I'm just like,
Yes.
okay, this is a
I just don't
little.
like the story. I don't like the writing. It's a story game. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. You're trying to do me a favor, but I'm like,
Janet's
oh.
like literally like, hey guys, I gotta get out here, and then she can't stop. She has to talk about what she thinks
I know.
about Dustborn.
I just had to I've been. It's been like a year since I played it. I've
She's
never
been
had to say
holding on to
anything.
it, guys. She needs to say
Yeah.
something. You can watch anything that Jen has to say on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Our socials include Indie Council _ on Twitter and at the Indie Council everywhere else. But this session is closed. Go play some indies.